3 months ago, I opened a container of rice I'd stored 2 years earlier. What I found inside made my stomach turn. Today, I'm sharing the 5 mistakes that ruined my first attempt at food storage and how you can avoid them. When I first started, I thought I was being smart by buying rice and beans in bulk. Turns out I was setting myself up for disaster. The good news, every mistake I made is completely fixable, and I'm going to show you exactly how. Before we dive into the mistakes, let's talk about why rice and beans matter for budget preppers. These two foods are incredible for 3 reasons. First, they're cheap. You can buy a month's worth of calories for less than $50. Second, they store well when done correctly. We're talking 20 to 30 years of shelf life. Third, they provide complete nutrition when combined. Rice gives you carbs and some protein. Beans add more protein and fiber. Together, they cover your basic needs. But here's the catch. Most people mess up the storage process so badly that their rice and beans are useless within months. Let's make sure that doesn't happen to you. Mistake 1, using the wrong containers. The first mistake almost everyone makes is storing rice and beans in whatever they have lying around. Plastic bins from the hardware store, old jars, or even worse, leaving everything in the original bags. I did this with my first batch. I bought 40 pounds of rice, left it in the store bags, put those bags in a plastic tote, and shoved it in my closet. 6 months later, I had bugs, not just a few bugs. We're talking about hundreds of tiny weevils that had turned my rice into their personal breeding ground. Here's what most people don't understand. Rice and beans often contain insect eggs when you buy them. These eggs are microscopic. You can't see them. Regular storage containers let in air and moisture, which creates the perfect environment for bugs to thrive. The solution isn't complicated, but you need to do it right from the start. Step 1 is getting proper containers. You need food-grade buckets with tight sealing lids. I use 5-gallon buckets because they're the right size and they stack well. You can find them at hardware stores or order them online. Step 2 is using mylar bags. These are special bags that create a barrier against oxygen and moisture. You put the mylar bag inside the bucket, pour your rice or beans into the bag, and then seal it. Real mylar bags are thick and silver. The cheap ones you see online that look like shiny plastic won't work. Step 3 is oxygen absorbers. These are small packets that remove oxygen from your sealed container. Without oxygen, bugs can't survive, and your food stays fresh. For a 5-gallon bucket, you need a 2,000 cc oxygen absorber. These come in packs, and once you open the pack, you need to use them within 15 minutes because they start working immediately. Here's my exact process. I pour rice or beans into the mylar bag inside the bucket. I drop in the oxygen absorber. Then I seal the mylar bag using a regular clothing iron on medium heat. You just press the iron along the top of the bag, moving slowly to create a seal. Once the mylar is sealed, I close the bucket lid and label it with the contents and date. That's it. Your rice or beans are now protected from bugs, moisture, and oxygen. They'll stay good for decades. One quick tip, some people freeze their rice and beans for a week before sealing them to kill any bug eggs. This works, but it's not necessary if you're using oxygen absorbers. I've done both methods, and the oxygen absorber method alone has worked perfectly for me. Mistake 2, buying only one type of each. The second mistake is thinking all rice is the same and all beans are the same. I see people buy one huge bag of white rice and one huge bag of pinto beans, and they think they're set. After eating the same meal 3 days in a row, you start to dread it. After a week, you'd rather skip eating than face another bowl. This isn't weakness, it's human nature. Your body and mind need variety. There's also a practical issue. Different beans cook differently. Some take hours, some take 20 minutes. Here's what I do instead. I store multiple types of rice and several kinds of beans. For rice, my main supply is white rice because it lasts the longest. Brown rice has oils that go bad within a year, even in sealed storage. But I also keep some instant rice for emergencies. Instant rice cooks in 5 minutes and uses minimal fuel. For beans, I have variety. Pinto beans are my bulk option because they're cheap, but I also store black beans, which are great for soups. I keep kidney beans for chili. Most importantly, I store red and green lentils. The goal isn't to have 50 different foods. The goal is having enough options that you can make meals that taste different. Think about it. Mexican food uses black beans with cumin and chili powder. Indian food uses lentils with curry. Italian food uses white beans with garlic. Same basic ingredients, totally different meals. Mistake 3. Forgetting flavor and fat. This is where most people's plans fall apart in real life. They store rice and beans, cook them up, and realize everything tastes like cardboard. I did a test run with my family 5 years ago. We ate from our storage for 1 week. By day 3, my kids were begging for anything else. The problem wasn't that we were hungry. The problem was that food without flavor is miserable. Let me break this into 2 parts: seasonings and fats. First, seasonings. You need to store spices in bulk, not just have a nice spice rack. Salt is number 1. Store at least 5 pounds per person. Salt preserves food, enhances flavor, and your body needs it. Get regular salt and some flavored salts like garlic salt. Next are the flavor makers. Garlic powder and onion powder transform bland food into something edible. Chili powder and cumin give you Mexican-style meals. Curry powder opens up Indian cuisine. Italian seasoning covers pasta and Mediterranean dishes. I also keep bouillon cubes for adding depth to cooking water. Hot sauce in small bottles lasts years. Dried herbs like oregano and basil weigh nothing but add huge flavor. Soy sauce adds that savory depth that makes food satisfying. These aren't extras, they're essential. Without them, you'll have food you won't want to eat. Now, let's talk about fat. This is what most people completely miss. Rice and beans have almost no fat. Fat is what makes food taste good and feel satisfying. Your body also needs fat to absorb certain vitamins and to function properly. The problem is that most cooking oils go bad quickly. Vegetable oil and olive oil will oxidize and turn rancid within a year or 2. My solution is ghee, which is clarified butter. Properly sealed ghee lasts for years at room temperature. It adds richness to rice and makes beans creamy. I also store small amounts of shortening in sealed containers. It's not health food, but in an emergency, calories from fat are valuable. The other option is refined coconut oil. Unlike regular cooking oil, refined coconut oil stays stable for 5 years or more when sealed properly. Here's a real example of why this matters. Plain white rice and plain beans. Boring and hard to eat. Now add salt, garlic powder, cumin, chili powder, and a spoonful of ghee. Suddenly you have something that tastes like actual food. Add some dried onions and you've got a meal that feels like it came from a restaurant. When you're buying supplies, don't spend every dollar on rice and beans. Spend 80% on rice and beans and 20% on seasonings and fats. This small investment makes the difference between food you'll eat and food that sits unused. Mistake 4. Not knowing how to cook them. Here's a mistake that bites people when it matters most. They've stored beans perfectly, but they have no idea how to actually cook them. Dried beans aren't like opening a can. They require specific steps. I learned this the hard way during a practice weekend. I tried cooking kidney beans without knowing the proper method. I threw them straight into a slow cooker without soaking or boiling first. Hours later, they were still hard. Turns out, kidney beans contain a natural toxin. When you don't boil them hard for at least 10 minutes before slow cooking, that toxin doesn't break down. It causes real food poisoning. Let me share the correct method for cooking beans so you never have this problem. Step 1. Sort your beans. Spread them on a tray and remove any rocks, broken beans, or weird-looking pieces. This takes a minute, but saves you from biting down on a pebble. Step 2. Rinse them in cold water to remove dust and debris. Step 3. Soak them. You have 2 options. The overnight soak is simple. Cover beans with water about 3 inches above the bean level and let them sit for 8 to 12 hours. Don't go past 12 hours or they start to ferment. The quick soak is faster. Cover beans with water, bring to a boil for 2 minutes, then remove from heat and let sit covered for 90 minutes. Here's a trick that improves your beans. Add a tablespoon of salt to the soaking water. This actually helps beans soften better and seasons them from the inside. The old myth that salt makes beans tough is wrong. Step 4. After soaking, drain and rinse the beans. Don't cook them in the soaking water. That water contains compounds that cause gas. Step 5. Cook them properly. Put beans in a pot, cover with fresh water by about 2 inches, and bring to a hard boil. This is critical. Boil hard for at least 10 minutes. This makes beans safe and breaks down toxins. After the hard boil, reduce to a simmer and cook until tender. Pinto and kidney beans take 1.5 to 2 hours. Black beans take about an hour. They're done when you can easily mash one between your fingers. The game changer is getting a pressure cooker. A pressure cooker reduces cooking time from 2 hours to 20 minutes. Even old beans that have been stored for years will soften in a pressure cooker. I use an instant pot, and it's one of my most valuable tools. But here's the key point. Practice this before an emergency. Cook a batch of beans once a month. Learn the timing. Get comfortable with the process. When you're stressed and cooking on a camp stove, you don't want to be figuring this out for the first time. Also, learn to cook without electricity. I keep a propane camp stove specifically for this. I've cooked beans on it multiple times, so I know it works and I know how much fuel it takes. One more tip. Hard water makes beans tough. If your tap water has lots of minerals, your beans might never fully soften. The fix is using filtered water or adding a tiny pinch of baking soda to your cooking water. Mistake 5. Storing only rice and beans. This is the biggest strategic mistake. Someone learns that rice and beans form a complete protein, stocks up on a year's supply, and thinks they're finished. They're not. They've set themselves up for problems. If rice and beans are your only food storage, you're missing critical elements. You're missing nutrients, variety, and the ability to actually sustain yourself long term. Rice and beans together provide complete protein, which is good, but they're missing many other nutrients. They're low in vitamins A, C, B12, and K. They're low in calcium and potassium. They have almost no fat. If that's all you eat for weeks, you'll start experiencing deficiencies. Fatigue, brain fog, weak immunity, slow healing. In a crisis, you can't afford that. Here's what you need to add to your storage. First, multivitamins. They're cheap, last for years, and fill nutritional gaps. Store at least a 1-year supply for each family member. Second, vitamin C sources. Store canned fruits, dried fruits, or vitamin C tablets. Third, healthy fats. I mentioned ghee and coconut oil already. Also consider canned fish like tuna or salmon. They provide omega-3 fats and protein. Peanut butter in sealed jars lasts 2 years and provides fat, protein, and comfort. Fourth, variety in carbohydrates. Don't just store rice. Store pasta, which cooks faster and uses less fuel. Store oats for breakfast. Store flour if you know how to bake. Instant mashed potatoes for quick carbs. These are all cheap, shelf-stable, and they break up the monotony. Fifth, protein variety. Even storing a dozen cans of chicken or beef gives you options. Canned beans cook faster than dried and require minimal fuel. Sixth, vegetables. Dehydrated vegetables are lightweight, cheap, and last forever. Onions, peppers, tomatoes, carrots. You can also store canned vegetables. Canned tomatoes are a staple because they add acid, flavor, and nutrition. Seventh, comfort foods. This isn't frivolous. In a crisis, morale matters enormously. Store some chocolate, hard candy, instant coffee, or tea, hot cocoa mix. These items cost almost nothing but make a huge difference in keeping spirits up. Eighth, water and fuel. You can't cook rice and beans without water and heat. I store water in 5-gallon jugs and have a rain catchment system for backup. For fuel, I keep propane for my camp stove and wood for fires. Here's the framework I use. My food storage has layers. The foundation is bulk staples, rice, beans, oats, pasta. These are cheap calories that last forever. The second layer is canned goods and preserved foods for variety and nutrition. The third layer is comfort foods and seasonings for morale. The fourth layer is the tools and knowledge to use everything. If you only have the foundation, you don't have food security. You have ingredients that might cause malnutrition or might sit unused because they're too unpleasant to eat. I learned this from people who lived through real emergencies. The preppers who did best weren't the ones with the most rice and beans. They were the ones with variety, seasonings, and the ability to make meals that felt normal even when nothing else was. Food isn't just fuel. It's comfort, routine, and connection to normality when the world is chaotic. Let me share one final story that brings this all together. I know someone who stored 200 pounds each of rice and beans, all perfectly sealed in buckets. He was proud of his preparation. Then he lost his job and had to live off this storage for 3 months while finding work. He made it through, but he told me it was incredibly difficult. Not because he was hungry, he had plenty of calories, but after 2 weeks of plain beans and rice, he was so tired of it that he'd sometimes skip meals. His kids refused to eat. His family was miserable. They had food, but they were suffering anyway. He said if he could do it over, he'd spend less on bulk rice and beans and more on variety, seasonings, and comfort foods. The bulk was necessary, but it wasn't enough by itself. That's the lesson here. So let's recap the 5 mistakes and how to fix them. Mistake 1, using wrong containers. Fix it with food-grade buckets, mylar bags, and oxygen absorbers. Mistake 2, buying only one type of rice and beans. Fix it by storing multiple varieties, including fast-cooking options like lentils and instant rice. Mistake 3, forgetting flavor and fat. Fix it by dedicating 20% of your budget to seasoning, spices, and shelf-stable fats like ghee. Mistake 4, not knowing how to cook dried beans. Fix it by practicing now, learning proper soaking and boiling methods, and considering a pressure cooker. Mistake 5, storing only rice and beans. Fix it by adding layers, vitamins, fats, variety in carbs and proteins, vegetables, and comfort foods. If you found this helpful, hit that like button so more people can find this information. Subscribe for more practical prepping advice without the fear-mongering. I post new videos every week on food storage, water security, and real skills for real situations. Drop a comment and tell me which mistake you've made or what you're working on in your preps. I read every comment and love hearing from you. We're all learning together. Until next time, stay prepared, stay calm, and keep building that confidence that comes from being ready. Thanks for watching.